But you guys, got another video here for you. In this one we're taking a look at debloating Windows 10. Now Windows 10 comes with loads of bloatware pre-installed, and also every time you remove it and you do a Windows 10 update, it will get reinstalled again by Microsoft. So thanks a lot Microsoft for considering to reinstall Candy Crush every single time you do an update. When I remove something, I want it removed for a reason. I do not want it put back after I've removed it, and this is the problem with Windows 10, and it drives people insane. So what you can do is use a script to remove a lot of this stuff, and it will stay removed until there is a Windows update, and you would have to run through this process again. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the things that you can do to try and make the whole removal process easy. And it's using tools like Windows 10 Debloater. It's basically a script that you run, and it will remove a lot of this stuff from the system. And you can go ahead and take a look at this if you wish. Now don't go ahead and run this script if you don't know what it does. Make sure you read all of the information on this page, because it will remove certain stuff from the system, and some of that stuff you may want to keep. So if that is the case, then stay well alone, but if you are experienced enough to understand how this works, then basically come over here and take a good long read about what you're actually performing on your system before you go ahead and do it. Okay, but if you're like me and you don't want all that stuff on the system, then run this, and it will remove a lot of that bloatware from the system. Another tool that we're going to be taking a look at is the Windows Update Blocker version 1.1. Now this is a little simple tool that will allow you to disable the Windows updates, and it will disable the service and also protect the service from restarting, and this will stop the Windows updates from coming down. Now the good thing about this is it gives you control of your Windows updates. Now if you don't want to update to the latest and greatest of Windows 10 every time they released one, then this sort of thing is useful, because it means you can turn it on or off and then accept the updates when you want them, and then turn it back off when you don't want them. Now I don't want to be forced into updating to their latest updates, because normally it's full of bugs, and basically it sort of breaks Windows. So I like to have full control here. Now I know Windows 10 has started to implement some new features where it gives you a bit more control over your Windows updates, but I prefer to use this method. Now also you've got software like 0&0 software, which is 0&0 ShutUp10, and basically you can run something like this, which will remove a lot of settings on your system. And we'll take a look. You've seen me use this before, and also another script here which you can run. There's a bunch of scripts here which will help you debloat Windows 10, and also a lot of other features in here as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we can do this in this system. So I've downloaded the script and I've got it here on my desktop. This is the folder on my desktop. It's called Windows 10 Debloater-Master. So that is the folder unzipped on there. So what I'm going to do now is you can run it from here. You can run the GUI if you wish. It comes with 3 versions here. This is the sysprep version, which you can use with sysprep, and also you've got the GUI version. If you want to run that, you can do. All you'd need to do is right click on this and run this in PowerShell. What this would do is open this up in PowerShell with a GUI interface. A box will pop up in a second, as you'll see here. Okay, so we need to run this as administrator, so I'm going to say yes here, and there we go, and you should get this box popping up here. So this is the GUI interface version, and this will allow you to disable Cortana and also stop Edge, PDF takeover, and also unpin tiles from the start menu, and also enable dark mode, disable dark mode. And there's a bunch of other stuff here. Disable telemetry and tasks. So you've got your choice here. This gives you a bit more control, and if you run it from the actual command prompt there, from the PowerShell command prompt, when you're typing all the commands out, it will just run and do a lot of that stuff for you, but here it gives you a little bit more control here. So what we're going to do is run it from this location just to make it easy for you. So we're going to remove all the bloatware, and you can see here remove bloatware with the blacklists, fix whitelisted apps, and so on. So let me go ahead and remove all the bloatware, and you'll see it start to run. And you'll see it going through here, starting to remove all the bloatware. And what that's removing is some of the apps here that you can see. Now it's entirely up to you whether you want to run this or not. If you do, I'd advise you to obviously make a backup of your computer if that's what you want to do before you run any of these sort of apps. So if you want to disable Cortana, Cortana has been disabled. You can also stop Edge PDF takeover, which is something that I want to do because I don't want Edge running that option. So that's been no longer taking over the default there. As you can see here, you can uninstall OneDrive. If you use OneDrive, then don't uninstall it. But I'm going to uninstall it because I don't use it. So I'm just going to let that go through its motions there. And then once we've done that, I can move on to some other bits and pieces. Now again, you can run this from the command prompt here where you won't get the GUI interface, and this will automatically run and stop all this stuff automatically. But if you want a bit more control, then something like this gives you the disable enable option available there for you. So you can see it's going to go ahead and start to uninstall the OneDrive here. So once you've run your debloating option here, you can revert this afterwards. If the program or the script closes, then you can reopen it and you can continue with your tasks. Now during the uninstallation process of OneDrive here, my screen went black, and that's because they needed to close down Explorer to probably uninstall this OneDrive. Now if that does happen, then just push Ctrl-Alt-Delete on your keyboard like so. And then go into open your task manager here, and what you want to do is you want to run a new task, and then you want to type in there explorer.exe and click OK, and this will bring back your start and taskbar here. Okay, if that happens to you when you're running the uninstall OneDrive and you get a black screen. So what you can do next is you can unpin tiles from the start menu. You can remove bloatware registry keys, disable telemetry tasks. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. So I've reopened up the script and I'm going to remove the bloatware registry keys. We're just going to remove those from the system. And you've got an option here to install the .NET version 3.5. I've already got this installed, but if you need to install that, you can do. Click here and it will install it. And this uses, a lot of applications use this, so you might want to install that. You can just enable the dark mode here if you wish as well. Now to revert your changes, you can also click up here. So we'll just let this run through and then we'll move on to the next stage of debloating Windows 10. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go into the start button, click on the settings here, and I just want to go into where it says update and security here. And what I'm going to do here is go into advanced options. I'm going to come down here to delivery optimization, and you can see here allow downloads for other PCs. I don't want that on. Now obviously we're going to be running the temporary disable updates. You can leave this part out if you wish, but I personally don't want to keep updating to the latest version of Windows 10 until I know it's stable, because 9 times out of 10 it's not stable and I end up with issues myself. So I'm just going to wait for a few more months, maybe 6 months or so, until I realize that all the bugs are fixed, and then I'll update to that latest version. But if you want to let Windows roll out updates as and when, that's entirely up to you. Okay, so this step now, what I'm going to do is run my Windows Update Blocker. So I've already got it downloaded, but you can download this and run this if you wish. And this is it here. So I'm just going to open this up. And you want to put this into a location which is where you want to use it. So for instance, in your desktop or wherever it is you want to keep it stored. So let me go ahead and move this to my desktop. It's now unzipped and moved to my desktop, and I can now run this here. Now you may need to run this as administrator, so I'm going to right click and run this, and there we have the actual program itself. So we're going to disable the service and protect the service settings here. So I'm going to apply this, and there we go, and that's done. And if you want to re-enable it, you can do, and let the updates come. So when you do this, when we go to our updates, it should see here that you're up to date. Now there was an update due there, but obviously we've stopped that now. There is a menu here, donate, and also contact, and a bunch of other things here. So I've got that set how I want it. Now before I go ahead and start to use the ShutUp10, you can use this if you wish, or you can just go through manually and turn a lot of that stuff off manually. It's entirely up to you. Okay, so let's go into the start button and then settings, and then go into privacy, and I'm going to be turning off a bunch of stuff here. Now you can leave a lot of this stuff on if you wish, it's entirely up to you, but I'm just going to be turning quite a bit of stuff off because I don't need it running and I never ever seem to use it, so I'm just going to turn it off. A lot of this stuff like speech and also inking and typing and personalization, I've turned all this off as well. This is going to send information back to Microsoft. All this stuff here is on basic, that's as good as you're going to get it. And I've got everything else set to off, and then I'm going to delete the diagnostic data and put this to feedback frequency never, and go through here and just go through some of the other settings here. There's a bunch of them inside here which I like to just turn off. You can see store my activity history on this device, and there's a bunch of other stuff on here as well. You can clear your activity history if you wish. That's entirely up to you. But the location here, I've got this also turned off. If you wish to leave it on, you can leave it on, but I've got mine turned off. And there's a bunch of other settings here as well. Location and camera. Also turn that off because I'm not using it. And also the microphone I've left on, but I've got it for selected things that I like to use for that sort of stuff. Notifications I've turned off. Account information, you can see here, choose which apps can access your account info. I've turned that off as well. A call history, I mean basically just go free and use a bit of common sense, really, that's all it is, and turn off what you like and leave whatever you want on. It's as simple as that. But most of this stuff I never use, so I'm just going to turn a lot of this off. Cortana wants to get my email, so I'm turning it off. And also tasks, messaging, radio, there's loads of stuff inside here. Background apps, turn all that off. And you can see here pretty much there's a bunch of settings in here which I don't need. Now if you do need some of this stuff on because you use it, then leave it on. That's entirely up to you. So if you like your location, your geolocation being seen, then leave it on. If you don't, then turn it off. That's simple. So let me go through here. There's quite a few settings. As you can see, Windows 10 has been proper laced with these settings that no one probably uses, so you just turn them off. And there's a bunch of them inside here for gaming. Now if you use the gaming section that's built into Windows 10, by all means leave them on, but I'm going to be turning this stuff off because I have no need for it. No point leaving stuff on if you're not using it, so I'm going to turn all this stuff off. We're moving on down to the Xbox networking and game mode, so I'm going to turn these off as well. I don't use these. Again, that's entirely up to you whether you leave them on. Once that's done, we can move on to other areas, and as you can see, you just have to go through all the settings and remove what you don't need. So let's take a look here. We're going into the apps area. You can see all Candy Crush and all that has been removed now. And again, once Windows rolls out updates, this will have to be done every single time, which is a bit of a pain. We've got offline maps here. I'm going to delete all the maps and also turn this off, and you're getting the general idea that most of these features are being turned off because most people don't even use them. But if you do use it, that's entirely up to you. You can leave it on. You've also got other areas here as well, which is apps for websites and also video playback and all that sort of stuff. You can set this up. Startup is going to be for your programs that's starting up. I've got mine already set up here, but if you want to turn some of those off, you can do. And going into, let's see here, let's go into the system here, and we've got a bunch of areas here like notifications, actions and stuff like that, which I've turned off already. Focused assist is already turned off a lot of this stuff, so it's entirely up to you really what you want to turn off. You've got storage sense here, which is pretty useful if you want it to empty certain stuff out, like the downloads folder and things like that, and temp files. You can set this up to 30 days or whenever it is you want to run this. If you wish, you can turn it off if you don't want it on, then run CCleaner. It's entirely up to you, and just generally set it up the way you like it. So I don't think I need anything else in here, so let's move on. Tablet mode and multitasking. Most of this stuff is all turned off, as you can see here. Shared experience, that's all off. Share across device across the network, I've left that on. All the remote desktop is all turned off as well. So okay, so let's move on to the 0 and 0 software, which is ShutUp10, and you can use something like this as well if you wanted to. You're best to restart the system when you're using this, because obviously there'll be settings that need to be changed. So I need to reboot the system, but I've got a couple of apply changes here, so I'm going to accept those. But there will be a bunch of other stuff that you can tweak inside here which will turn features off. Just be careful what you're turning off, but pretty much a lot of this stuff in here which has gone red, that means it's on. And if you want to turn it off, like telemetry and stuff like that, you can turn this off by clicking on the little slider here to make it go green. Now if I rebooted the system, a lot of these will probably be green, but basically I'm just going to take a quick look inside here to show you. You can see all this stuff has been disabled, where you've got Windows geolocation services disabled, all that sort of stuff. So once you can see all that you want to disabled, just turn on to green and they will be turned off. Then reboot the system and you should be pretty much good to go. And it just goes to show you how many settings that you have to turn off in Windows 10 which you never had to do inside Windows 7 or previous generations of Windows. And this is the sort of way that Windows 10 has gone. It's sort of a massive collecting data operating system which they can use for marketing and stuff like that. And it's no big deal for a lot of people, but it's just a bit of a pain that you have to keep going through this process every time there's an update. You should, if you turn something off, it should be kept to off, in my personal opinion, because you've chose that option and it should be kept off. And let's go through here and have a last little few look at some of the other settings here. So you can see a lot of these are green. Okay, so what we're going to do here is say yes, and this will restart Windows. You want to restart Windows, definitely do that and move on to the next step. So what we're going to do here next. Okay, so let's go down to the search box here and type services. Now, a lot of these services will be disabled, but there'll be some that are still running, which you can actually go through and disable. Now, I've done a video on this before, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but basically only disable the services that you are not using. So if you're using a printer, then don't be disabling Print Spooler, because you won't be able to use that printer. You can see a lot of these are already disabled, which are the experience program and telemetry collecting. That has already been disabled. But once you reboot your system, there may be a couple of little services in here which have slipped through the net, and you can go through and disable some of those. Now, these are going to be completely optional depending on what you want to turn off, so they are entirely up to you. But to turn them off, you just select something like this and select disable and stop, and basically that's that, and click apply and OK, and that service will now be disabled. And again, there may be a bunch of them inside here which you can turn off. You can see here tracking as well. Just going to have this one off as well. And I'm going to click stop and disable. There we go. It's that simple, really. And there's a bunch of lists on the internet which you can follow through, or you can go and watch my videos. I've got a bunch of videos on disabling some of these services. Again, this is all a preference to what you use. So it's not much point me showing you exactly what to disable, because if I don't use, say, a printer and I'm disabling, say, Print Spooler, and you do need that, then it's not going to let you print. So just go ahead and disable what you need here. So I'll do a couple of more. There's probably just a couple of more here that have slipped through the net. So I'm just going to go ahead and disable those. There we go. Download Maps Manager. Disable that, I don't need it. And there'll probably be a couple of others inside here, so just go through and you'll see some of them still running. And I'll just double click on this and disable it. There we go, disabled. Now, there are a bunch of these services which have already been disabled, so just go through here. There may be just one or two that need to turn off that you don't need, like remote desktop and stuff like that. If you're not using it, then turn it off. But other than that, pretty much I think we have covered what we need to cover here. Now, I have also done other videos on these, so you can check those out. And also, we've got a Discord server there, so if you've got any questions or you want some advice, then pop on there. It's free to join. Just pop on there and you should be able to get on the Discord server and have a chat with a lot of other people that are on there that are using Discord. And also there's a lot of text on there as well with some useful advice and information for you. Anyway, I think we're going to wrap this one up. That's basically how you can debloat Windows 10 and remove all the bloatware and crapware from Windows 10. And you'll probably notice that Windows 10 will run a lot more smoother and faster with a lot of this stuff turned off, and you should be able to use Windows 10. Now, obviously the Windows update part is entirely up to you whether you leave that on or off. I just prefer to turn it off and then update once I know the actual release has been stable for a while and all the problems have been ironed out. But other than that, I'm going to wrap this one up. My name has been Brian from briteccomputers.co.uk. Thanks again for watching, guys, and thanks for your continued support. I shall see you again for another video real soon. Bye for now. Now, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit the big red subscribe button on my YouTube channel and hit the bell notification button next to that to be notified when we upload new videos.